Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'll start. Good evening, everyone. I'm Simran Thakur, National Officer at RASOC, the Research Administrative Society of Games, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all to the Module 2 of the SRMAx Bootcamp, a hands-on training program designed to empower medical students with practical skills in conducting systematic reviews and meta-analysis. As you all know, SRMAX is not just another research workshop, it's a dynamic, mentor driven initiative that breaks away from passive learning, offering a space where research becomes interactive, applied, and accessible. Today's module is focused on a crucial step in the review process literature search and screening. Ryan. In this session, you'll learn how to effectively conduct a comprehensive literature research, how to organize, manage, and screen results using Ryan, a powerful tool for systematic reviews, and how to set strong filters and criteria for identifying high quality studies. Um, we are honored to have Dr. Nirag as our speaker today. Dr. Nirag Sigdar is a dedicated clinician researcher with a deep interest in neuro-oncology and the integration of AI in medicine. With over 10 publications in peer-reviewed journals, his work spans cancer therapeutics, artificial intelligence, and clinical case studies. He's the founder and CEO of Club Research, where he mentors um, and students in systematic reviews and manuscript writing. Dr. Nirag also serves as the National Medical Officer of Research Exchanges at MSAI and an editor at JAMSA, contributing to major conferences like AMSC and EASMC. Through his leadership at Club Research and his work with Simply Neuroscience APAP program, Dr. Nirag is deeply committed to nurturing early career researchers and building strong foundation clinical research across disciplines. It is truly a pleasure to have someone with such a vibrant and visionary approach to research with us today. Okay, without further delay, please join me in warmly welcome Dr. Nirag. Over to you, sir.
Well, hello everyone. I am Nirag Sigdar, and thank you, Simran, for a beautiful introduction. And I'm really honored to be here. All thanks to Yosra and At Last Games for giving me this opportunity to take this session on systematic review and literature review. So, literature review is a very crucial part of any systematic review because it can make or break the research. So in this module, what we are going to first focus on is have a brief idea that how a systematic review is conducted. And after that, uh, are you having problem with the volume? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So first of all, what we're going to do is have a brief outlook of how a systematic review is conducted so that I think someone is having problem with the volume.
No, sir, your volume is okay, I guess.
Okay, then I'll continue then. So, yeah, because there are so many people here, maybe some of them have a brief idea about systematic review. Maybe someone is new to it. So to put everyone on the same level field, I will start with a brief introduction to systematic review, and after that, we'll go in the main focus that is about literature review as such, and then we are going to have a brief hands-on project on first how to conduct or make a search string, and then we are going to use Zotero for using our as a reference manager, and then we are going to complete our session. So without ado, can I ask the take permission from the organizer to share the screen?
Yes, sir, you can share the screen.
Thank you so much. So first of all, we are going to see the step-by-step process of conducting a systematic review. So I have formed a brief research question for as an example in this exercise, like what is the effectiveness of mobile health application in improving glycemic control among adults with type 2 diabetes. So you just do not take that this is a real research question that we have taken. It just for an example, it might be published or not, so it's just for an example. So number one, what is important is defining the research question. So whatever steps we are following, the initial steps are the most critical because these can break or make the research. Because if the found because they form the foundation of the systematic review. If these are not correct or these are not up to the mark, then entire efforts will go waste, and this can lead to wastage of time, resource, energy for all the members. So it's very critical that the research question that we are forming is up to the standard, and that involves understanding existing research on the topic, and also understanding the what are the pitfalls and limitations of existing research, and then forming a solid research question. I will give an example where previously we had a research on comparatively meta-analysis between laparoscopic versus robotic inguinal repair. And so the person who was forming the research question, he made this research question, and then we went along with that. We did all the things. We conducted literature research, we screen articles, we were all in the data extraction phase, that is at the end of the phase. And then what happened is that when the PI came, the PI just took over the thing, and then he said that this is already been published. So when we did a further analysis, we found that the research question has already been done, similar research question with about 200 to 300 more articles than what we got in our initial literature search. So basically the entire program was scrapped. So it was a lot of cumbersome process, and it took us wasted a lot of time. So again, this is a very important way. So how to form a research question? Number one, so we generally use the PICO framework, where PICO is the standardized framework, where PICO stands for population, intervention, comparator, and outcome. You can even add one more, that is the exposure also, but normally we use with the PICO one whenever because PICO helps us to compare between the standard and what we are trying to find out. So for number one is the population. So we need to identify the subjects on which we are doing research. It's not only about the human population, it can be animals also, it can be cell lines also. For example, if you are studying, I did one internship where we were finding out the different efficacies of chemotherapeutic agents. Out of that, we found routine. So if you're finding routine is a drug that is in development, so if you're finding that the efficacy of routine on different cell lines, especially if you're doing for triple negative breast cancer, so we had two cell lines. One was T4 BC, and another one was the BR32. So these two cell lines we were comparing between them. So again, the population can be cell lines even. So it does not mean that population has to be human. So, but that is again bench research. But when you're talking about human biomedical research, we generally take human beings as population, and population has to be defined. And this is a gross area where you are defining the population. In our research question, here is the effectiveness of mobile health application in improving glycemic control among adults with type 2 diabetes mellitus. You can get a fair idea that our population is adults with type 2 diabetes mellitus. Then we are doing an intervention. Here is that in the research question, it said that we are using mobile health applications in improving the glycemic control. For example, we are maybe making an app which connects with a glucometer in the arm that will that will monitor the glucose level of the gradient for the entire duration. And we are using a comparison is generally done with the standard of care or the accepted standard of care at present. So for example, in case of this glucometer, it is basically HbA1c monitoring that is considered standard. And otherwise we can also use sham comparative comparisons also. Sham comparisons are where you are not doing anything, but um, for example, in case of surgery, so if you're doing an inguinal hernia repair, so sham would be like you are doing the inguinal hernia repair, like you're just opening up the patient and again closing him back. So it is theoretically a feasible thing, but practically no one does sham. And outcome, so outcome is we are measuring how we are measuring the variable that of our study. For example, here it is glycemic control. So we are using HbA1c labeling for monitoring this. Then step two is again very important, is developing a protocol. So for example, because why this is important, because systematic reviews take a lot of time to accomplish. And for example, it might take 2 or 3 months to do a systematic review. And where, for example, if you are making the protocol or the research question in the month of January, and you are finally trying to submit it to a journal by the month of August, you already find the journal flags you up, says that this has already been published. This is this is already been published. So that can happen, right? So why it is that? Because your research has not been registered with any kind of database. For example, Prospero is a database where you can register your research protocol, and then you can basically it acts as a safeguard that your idea is not stolen by anyone, right? Because it might happen that someone again comes up with your idea and publish it faster than you, and then he has a paper to his name, and while you can be charged with plagiarism. So for that to not happen, you should register your protocol much in advance for getting a systematic review approved. If you do not do that, again it's a wastage of time, and again it can have some legal implications also. So for Prosper registration, there's a separate site of Prosper. You can just search in the Google, it will come up. And then there are specific objective criteria that they are laying down, and you need to fill those up. So before Prosper registration, you must have a protocol ready with you. And the protocol must include the objectives, what you want to achieve with the research, the eligibility criteria, the databases that you want to search, which I'm going to discuss later, and the analysis methods. So the analysis methods is again a dicey thing, because when you are first approaching a research, you do not have an idea what are you going to do. It's very simple, very expected from you. But as you go on to find out more articles and data, then it actually becomes much more understanding to you that okay, this is what I'm going to do. So analysis portion, I think Dr. Vinay Suresh will take it tomorrow or the next week, in the next module in details, and he's a better person to judge you on that. So I will continue with my portion. So step three is basically you do a literature search. So that is our main point of discussion today, and we're going to have a detailed discussion about that. So basically, after you have formed the research question, that is in this case is the research question that in the question. After that, you need to, and you have registered it, you have a search strategy ready, and you are going to form the protocol. Then you need to find out the relevant articles, right? So for that, we have a systematic steps. So for before going to that, we need to understand some basic terminologies like Boolean operators and or not, mesh and empty terms, or basically controlled vocabulary. Databases, about have an idea about those. What are PubMed? What is Embase? What is Scopus, Cochrane, PsycInfo, the nursing library? There's so much databases. Which one to include? Which one not to include? And then step four is after you do that search, you will get access to a lot of articles, thousands or maybe hundreds of articles, and then you need to have a place where you can store them. So previously people used to use Zotero is easily available in the internet. You can download it, it's free. Also you can use EndNote if you have subscription, or even you can some also work with Ryan also for this purpose. Then you need to import the results, and you have to remove the duplicates. We're going to talk about it later. Then comes the fun part, that is screening studies. So it is fun in the sense because it's very easy to do, but again it's very tiresome and cumbersome, because someone tells you that you have, for example, there was one literature review that we did, systematic review. It was, there were about 10,000 articles and divided among five reviewers. So 10,000 divided by 5, that is 2,000 articles per person. So it can be very tedious for you to go through the articles. I mean, and then you need to select or reject articles based on that. So again, if you're having 10,000 articles, then again you need to devise your search strategy. Maybe you're taking too many unwanted articles into your collection. So again, we are going to have a detailed discussion. Then data extraction. So this is where your process starts. You need to, after you have screened the articles which conform to your eligibility criteria, you have got your net articles. For example, if initial search gave you about 1,000 articles, After that, you screen for duplicates. You are left with, for example, 600 articles. And then you go about initial title screening, and you are left with 200 articles. And from that, you go for full text screening, and you are ultimately left with 20 to 30 articles only. And from these 30 articles, you're going to divide among yourselves, and you're going to extract relevant information that is relevant for your analysis. And again, it is very important for getting the right results. Like, the article is huge, there are so many values, so many information. What is relevant for analysis, that has to be again thought about beforehand. Otherwise, it's going to lead to uh, it's not going to work out well. Then again, risk of bias. So at every step, what how when I mean from the starting of our research, from forming the research question, as we are progressing further, there is a huge chance of selection bias, and bias is coming into play. Why? Because is that right from screening, right? I have a different approach to a particular article. I might like a particular article, but some other person might think, no, that article is not right. So there are a lot of subjective aspect coming into play whenever human beings interacting. So to remove that, or to to understand whether the articles that you have included or not are good enough, then you need to do a risk of bias analysis. So risk of bias is again a very easy thing to do. I have touched upon it briefly, but still I'm going to tell you about here. Is that there are different categories of articles that you must understand. There are case series, case reports, original articles like randomized control trials, the gold standard. There are uncontrolled trials. There are systematic reviews. There are narrative reviews. There are meta-analysis. There are even animal studies, or what you call pilot studies, or bench research. So they have different types of articles, and they give us different types of information. So when you're going to do a literature search, you're going to come across all sorts of articles, right? Just think of it like a playground. So when you go into a playground, you have so many different types of people, right? And you meet so many different types of people. So what are the people that you require? So that has to be there has to be a subjective criteria. So for each of those, we have a different set of risk of bias tools. For example, we can use the very common is the Cochrane risk of bias tool, basically used for the RCTs. Then for case studies, we have different, the grade scheme. For narrative review, we do not have one, so it is not recommended. For case studies, we have different consort guidelines are there, etc. Then we have to synthesize the evidence. Now this again is a very tricky area, because and you cannot comment about it beforehand. Before doing a you might have formed the research question, but from there only you cannot tell whether that I'm going to do this type of analysis, because it totally depends upon the type of data you have on hand, right? Because if you are planning to do a meta-analysis, then the studies that you have included, at least two of them should have a i mean uh, two of them should have a similar outcomes, right? So otherwise you cannot compare them quantitatively. Or if you're doing a qualitative synthesis like a systematic review, then you can if you are doing it because we have various heterogeneous type of data. For example, you might have RCT included, you can have a case report, you can have narrative reviews. So if you're dealing with heterogeneous studies, then you have to do a qualitative synthesis, because you cannot do a meaningful analysis with that. And it totally depends upon the research question that we have formulated and the base and the existing knowledge. And finally comes the reporting the results. So when you're reporting the results, basically you're making the manuscript. So yeah, when you are making the manuscript, you have to follow some guidelines. And for systematic reviews, they have given a guideline known as the Prisma guidelines. And if you go to the internet, you type Prisma, you're going to get the entire checklist. So basically, a systematic review should tick all the boxes of that checklist. And one of the important part of that checklist is a Prisma flow diagram. So no systematic review is complete without a Prisma flow diagram. So I'm going to also touch upon Prisma flow diagram, how you're going to make one, how you can include it in your study, etc. And then you're going to summarize the key findings or write the report. Basically, we follow the IMRAD format of the introduction. Then we have the methodology, results, discussion, and conclusion. Apart from that, we also have an abstract section also. So Prisma chart formation. For when you're forming a Prisma chart, there are four domains that you need to take into account. Number one is identification, where when you search the databases with your search strategy that you have prepared beforehand, you're going to get some articles, a number of articles. When you find the number of articles, then you have to screen them. Gradually the number of articles would reduce. Think of it like a sieve, right? Initially you put so much amount, then out of that, to the sieve holes, a limited amount of substance comes out, and then from that again you're going to exclude some articles. When you are assessing about full textness, whether the article actually complies with the including the inclusion criteria. And finally you will have some handful of articles for your analysis, and we use a flowchart form for that to represent this. There is the prisma flow diagram, and we can prepare the prisma flow diagram in various methods. Many people who are good at coding, they use the R package with that, but for me or for you, I would just suggest that you go to internet and and I will show you in the internet also, that you can just make a prisma diagram just like that. If you type in the internet, then you just put in all the values. So this comes about a basic idea about prisma chart, or how do you do a systematic review. Now coming to our main topic of discussion is doing a literature research and forming search strategy. So I will continue with that. So our objectives will include that how you can.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes. Do you want to say something? I will have a question answer session at last, so you might take advantage of that. So let's continue. So for learning objectives, again, we're going to see how you can use Boolean operators, mesh terms. We're going to use how different types of databases and how you're going to screen those and ultimately enhance on activities. So number one, for search strategy, you need to understand about Boolean operators, the basic and, or, and not, the controlled vocabulary of the mesh terms and the empty terms, where to use them, how to use filters in various databases, what limits you can use, and advanced operations again. So first, starting with search filters, we have common filters like publication date, study type, language, species, age group. So my tip is that do not touch this area, right? It's going to mess up everything. So in PubMed, if you open up, you will see that there are a lot of filters. You can filter based on the study type. Maybe you want a systematic review, maybe you want a RCT, maybe you want a case series. Based on language, maybe English language, then German, French. You want to exclude those, you can't read those. Species based on, but PubMed does not have different other groups of articles. Age group, or maybe publication date, which is very important, right? You might have a topic which is much researched upon. So it will range from a very, people from earlier ages will do research upon that. For example, if you are doing about anatomy of the humerus, something to do with that. So humerus has been there from since beginning of time, and if you search an article, you will see an article of 1800s. So that is not going to come into our account. So you can search about publication date, but I generally do not touch this area because it can to mess up um, your analysis or your search strategy. So then I'm going to talk about the mesh terms. So mesh terms is basically used for PubMed search strategies. So I want to use the term about controlled vocabulary, right? So when you were in the search bar, right, in the Google also, if you talk about diabetes mellitus, or you just write diabetes, then Google will come up with different types of results. It will come with diabetes mellitus, it will come with diabetes infection, it will come up with diabetes related diseases or diabetes in younger age group, etc. So you need to restrict yourself, and you have to remain relative, with your study. So for that, PubMed has used standardized vocabulary terms, so that are known as mesh term. For example, myocardial infarction, that is the mesh term. It is for PubMed. If you type that, so it's going to give you a specific set of studies regarding myocardial infarction. So whenever you type the myocardial infarction, it's going to give that amount of studies itself, unless new studies are being published. So this gives a systematic approach on using your or finding relevant articles. So we use mesh terms a lot when we're doing a PubMed, because PubMed is one of the first databases that we are going to do our literature search. Second term is that we have OMTI terms, which is basically used for Embase. So Embase has a separate, it just like mesh, but it has a separate vocabulary system, that is like the OMTI term. So I'm going to give an example, because why we are why when we are going to use PubMed, when we are going to use Embase is going to differ. So here we are seeing that how we are using an empty term. So if I see, just write free text like heart attack or myocardial infarction or MI, we're going to write like this, because for example, some articles might not have used the term myocardial infarction at all in the heading. They might have written heart attack. So I need to include all the different types of articles that we are going to use, right? So we are going to use heart attack also, which is a colloquial term. We're going to also use myocardial infarction. You might have noticed that I have used an in between or. So or means either heart attack or it can be myocardial infarction. I need both. Or some articles might have even included MI, just MI, because MI is a very known term for every one of us. So just might have used MI and neither heart attack or myocardial infarction. But the computer is not smart enough to differentiate between them. So also we need to include MI again there, right? So again, that is the normal way of writing a search string. But if you use M-tree, you have to write it like this, like you use a colon or an apostrophe and then you write slash and exp. The exp is basically explode. So explode means that it going to, for example, if you write myocardial infarction and then you write explode, that means it's going to go about all the related terms like myocardial infarction or MI, heart attack, then myocardial death, or everything related to that myocardial area near about. So again, we have another term that is known as /de that do not explode. You're only using this when you're having so many search results that you want to restrict yourself. So when I write myocardial infarction and then I give slash and d, that I mean that only myocardial infarction would be searched upon, right? So ideal strategy is to use a combination of them. For example, I given diabetes mellitus explode. I mean diabetes mellitus type 1, type 2, type 3, or related everything about diabetes. And that means I want the intersection. That is, I want diabetes also. Along with that, something to do with mobile or smartphone app. So I should have taken this slide before, but let's continue either way. So and basically means you are narrowing the search like between diabetes and exercise. So if you must have studied about Venn diagrams, in Venn diagram we have one set A and set B. So if you want to find the common point between the set A and set B, we use the AND operator. That means it gives the intersection. So if I want to find any article which discusses about diabetes as well as exercise, so I'm going to use this operator. When I'm using or, it's going to broaden the search, right? It's going to give us if you're using hypertension or high blood pressure, right? So if you're using hypertension, articles discussing hypertension as well as articles including high blood pressure, we're going to get both of those. So it's again important when we have multiple terms for a single disease. Not again, not is a not where you are excluding. For example, you have set A and set B. You want a particular subsection of set A which is not a part of set B anyhow. For example, cancer, not pediatric. Like you give me everything about cancer except pediatric, like excludes the pediatric age group. It again depends upon your objectives. And parenthesis is basically a grouping particular sections, right? For example, diabetes or diabetes mellitus, that means I want everything about diabetes as well as diabetes mellitus, and that is one separate group, and exercise, that's another group. So you're grouping them together, right? Just like in maths, we use board mass. So something like that, because when it's a single line, it's okay. But when you're going having multiple lines of search strategy, it's going to get messed up, right? The computer will not understand which one to take first, which one to take second. So for that, we use brackets to make it simpler. Or just like board mass, we need to first do multiplication, then division. I mean, sorry, first we have to do division, then multiplication, then addition, subtraction, and so on. Just like that, we are going to group these items together so that they are taken up first. And continuing with that, so again, like, and will narrow our search, and all terms must be present, or is going to broaden, like any term can be present. For example, set A, set B, any one of those can be present. And not again, we do not use not a lot in our search strategy. We are going to use it with caution, right? Because we do not, because it is excluding the articles. Our objective should be to include all the relevant articles as much as possible. So if initially only you are trying to exclude articles, is you might lose a valuable article that might not fall under your search strategy. So or not is not a, I mean, not is not a good idea to go about, right? So if I, so again, elucidating about and operator. So I have given one single simple search strategy here. So diabetes and exercise, right? So heart disease and prevention and elderly, hypertension and medication and adherence. So you might, so this is going to give us a very narrowed result where the article should discuss about heart disease. Also, it should discuss about its prevention. Also, it should discuss about the elderly hypertension along with the medication and adherence. So there are a lot of conditions that I'm imposing upon the article to have. So obviously, very few amount of articles are going to take this. So if you are using, if you use this in a search strategy, you will see that you are going to get a handful, like 5 or 6 articles. So this is just a rough representation. This is not actual number of results. So you can see that diabetes has 10,000, exercise is 15,000. When you overlap them, you get a very less amount of results. Or operator is basically expanding your search. As I explained before, you have an example here that hypertension or high blood pressure. Like some people might use hypertension in the article, but some people just might have written high blood pressure or elevated pressure. So the computer is dumb enough because they're not going to differentiate between them. You're going to treat every word as a different word. But if you use the or operator, it's going to take them a single word. Also, if you are using adolescent or teenager or young adult. So you see, we are using synonyms here. So some articles might have used adolescent, some articles might have used teenager, some articles might have used young adult, but both of them fall under our population. So we need to include all of them, and that's why we are using or. So whenever using or strategy, basically is for including all the relevant synonyms, right? Like mobile or smartphone or app. Now app is there is a truncation there, which I'm going to talk about later on, because the app can be application, right? So there are many ways you can spell app or explore the app. And like some might even say cell phone. So cell phone, we can also add or cell phone. So you have to be creative enough to understand this, that this can be the way that people might have written articles. And you might not get an idea what to write and what to not. So if you just place hypertension and then you go about, you're going to see that some articles are having high blood pressure, so that might click. Okay, some articles might have high blood pressure, so I should include that also. Then again, you're going to go about and search, you will say, okay, there's elevated pressure also, right? So in this way, you build on, brick by brick, you build on a search strategy. Initially it will take you some time because you're starting out, but again, when you practice and you do a 3 strategies, you're going to get the hang of it. Everything is a practice after all. So not operator, again I said that you have to use with caution, because you are excluding unwanted, you want it to exclude unwanted terms. And whenever you are having a nature of excluding, you might exclude something that is could have been a beneficial article. For example, cancer, not pediatric, depression, not postpartum, diabetes, not type 1. So cancer, not pediatric means give me everything about cancer, but except pediatric age group, or depression, except postpartum depression, or diabetes, not type 1 means except type 1, give me all types of diabetes. So again, I say it can exclude the relevant articles unintentionally. So you should use this very cautiously. Most often not, you will not find not in the search strategy a lot, maybe one or two, something like that. Specifically when the search strategy that we are used or formed, it's getting us so many articles that it's not possible to actually go about. The key is to hit the sweet spot, like it's not so many articles and not so less. So how you're going to understand, I will tell you later. Now again, we come to the final mode of search strategy, that is basically advanced search operators. So I talked about truncation, wildcard, proximity operators. So you might have seen here that I used in the app where I used a truncation. So this is basically called a truncation because, for example, child. So child can be child, can be children, can be childhood. So the computer is, you have to treat the computer as a dumb thing. It cannot differentiate child, children, childhood. So for that you need to use a truncation. So you're going to build upon that word and going to explore different types of secondary syllables. Then again, therap, and I use truncation because it can be therapy, it can be therapies, or it can be therapeutic. So all of these are relevant to us, right? Because if you're looking for antimicrobial therapy, we might be looking for antimicrobial therapies. It's just language. So we have to use our brain here. And about wildcard, for example, some article might discuss about women, just write woman, but some may use women. Color, then again American British English problem, color, that. So we use a question mark there because the computer is going to fill up and get creative with it and find out relevant articles. So all this is used to get as much articles as possible. Again, proximity operator, you can see that I'm using diabetes near oblique 3 management. So it's going to go for, this is a you're using this because, for example, diabetes management, see the diabetes mellitus management, diabetes type 1 management, type 2, type 3, type 4. So anything having diabetes management near about 3 subjects is going to go about. Then about physical activity, then we will adjunction intervention, right? So physical activity is used as an intervention. So the computer is going to search about articles where physical activity has been used as an intervention in various studies, and it's going to give you a list of that. So these are very advanced operators where we are basically using the truncation and wildcard most often or not. Now, how you're going to form a search block or search strategy. So again, you have to come back to research question. So I will again take this opportunity to emphasize that research question is of utmost importance, because if you do not have a good research question, then everything will fall, just like a domino. Like if the first domino itself falls down, it's going to trickle down all the rest of the bigger chunks. So first of all, you have to break down a PICO framework, right? Population, intervention, comparison, and outcome. So, and each of this PICO is going to form our block for the search strategy. Like we are going to have a search strategy for population, we're going to have a search strategy for intervention, for comparison, and outcomes separately. And then we're going to club them together, and then now our strategy is formed. See, that is a step 2. Identify terms for each concept, then build individual search blocks, and then combine them with Boolean operators, whether you want and, or you want or, etc. For example, in our question, we have this: what is the effectiveness of mobile health application in improving glycemic control among adults with type 2 diabetes? Fair enough research question. So if I break down the PICO, I see population is adult with type 2 diabetes. So diabetes mellitus type 2 is basically a mesh term. So in order to find mesh terms, you can just type it as it is, and the computer will just pop up that, okay, this is what you wanted to find. Or you can actually go to the directory and search that whether which is a mesh term or not. So that again, that you can do. Or you can just type in the Google and find out. Then again, second is type 2 diabetes, adult diabetes, non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. That is again a separate name for type 2 diabetes mellitus. So again, you have to be very much cautious about, because type 2 diabetes has various forms: adult diabetes, NIDDM, type 2 diabetes. Second block is intervention. So our intervention is basically in the research question, we are going to give a mobile health application, effectiveness of mobile health application. So for that, again, mobile application is a mesh term. Again, mobile health, smartphone app. You can see that in app, I have used a truncation, right? That can be mobile phone application, apps, right? So there are many different terminologies. And outcome is the glycemic control. So you have to measure is the blood glucose level. So there are many ways to measure blood glucose level: glycemic control, HbA1c control, glucose control, glycemic index, and fasting blood sugar. So all that has to be included in outcome. And if you just looking for HbA1c level, you can just include HbA1c level as it is. So I have made a search block here, and I'm going to use the search block, and I'm going to show you how you're going to get the results, right? So we have seen the first block that we're going to make is our population. So we have diabetes mellitus type 2, there is a mesh term, so you must write in the bracket mesh, or that means along with that, we also want diabetes mellitus. You see, I am very much cautious about the case of the letters, because some articles might have used diabetes D with a capital and some has used diabetes D with small. And maybe diabetes mellitus was in the title, so it is capital, or in the it is just in the text, so it is small letters. So again, that is very case sensitive, right? Because I'm telling you, computer is a dumb thing. Type 2 diabetes or adult diabetes or an idea. Now we are using parenthesis to close this, right? Close the block. That means this is one block, and we are going to use parenthesis to use one term, right? Whenever using one term, we are going to use parenthesis. It is very simple. Second block that we are going to talk about is intervention. When we go to intervention, we are using mobile applications. Again, mobile application, this is a mesh term, or mobile health, or M health, or smartphone app with truncation. Digital health, right? Many articles with digital health. Then third is the outcome group. We have used blood glucose. We can find as a mesh term, glycemic control, HbA1c, or diabetes management. So you see, we have three blocks, and this is makes completes our search block or search strategy for a particular group, basically PubMed. And then, as I said, final search string assembly is you combine them. Block one and, that means you want intersection of population of intervention and intervention outcome, right? Because that is your objective. You don't want a population to give a different intervention or different outcome. You want them to you want to combine them. You want to find what articles discuss the population also, intervention also, and outcomes also, right? So they will give us a precise and comprehensive search. Now, again, database specific syntax, very important. You have to adapt your strategy. That's why. So PubMed, you have to capitalize the operator and or not. These are just pointers. Mesh tags you have to use, and field tags. Field tags again, like diabetes, I have written TIAB. So diabetes TIAB means title. TI is title and AB is for abstract. So it's going to go about articles where you have where the diabetes has been discussed in the title also and in the abstract also, because many articles are that they are, I mean, not open access, so you can only see the abstract and the title, right? So but you also want to include them because they also make a significant portion of the literature. So for that you can use diabetes TIAB, that is title as well as abstract. And when you get that article, if you want to access the article, you may the legal way is to pay the subscription fee, or you can use other sites like Sci-Hub, etc., pay unpaywall, etc. So Embase, again, Embase is now Ovid, under Ovid. So Ovid is basically, you might not have heard about it, but it's the latest database where everything is coming into one place. Like PubMed, Embase, Scopus, everything will come under one place as Ovid. But Embase, we are using that. So what type of database we're going to use, I'm going to talk about that also. So use diabetes or MP. So that is multi-purpose. That means everything related about diabetes. You can also use exploding diabetes, that is you will explore the diabetes heading into different like diabetes type 1, type 2, type 3, diabetes mellitus, non-insulin dependent diabetes, anything about diabetes. And again, diabetes adjunction 3 control, that means diabetes control and anything related to that. It can be glycemic control, right? It can be HbA1c monitoring. So anything related to diabetes control, the computer is going to figure out. Again, Scopus, we have is the empty terms. Again, title. ABS is basically abstract. And yeah. Then how do you actually test your search strategy? Like when you have made a search strategy, you want to actually know whether it's going to work or not. So basically, you are going to take the search strategy, paste it in the database system, and do a search. So number one is that you can have a lot more articles, like you can get 10,000 articles. So that is not a good approach, because you have so many articles to screen that it is basically maybe including unrelevant articles maximally. So you have to again go back to the drawing board, refine your article search strategy a little bit, maybe remove a lot of synonyms, etc. Second is that is the most common thing. You're going to get zero articles. That you have used so much and that you are basically left with zero articles, and no article actually discusses what you want. So this is a very common thing. But again, then you have to use truncations, maybe or you have to use more synonyms, or you have to take in, maybe change the intervention pattern, or maybe reduce the outcome. Maybe you might have looking for example, previously you might have been looking for HbA1c control and glycemic control and glucose monitoring. So basically no article actually takes into three into account. So maybe you just leave glucose monitoring, or you just write or there. So you have to tinker with that, and you have to hit the sweet spot, right? And then first, very important is documentation, right? So when you are going to do a search, you're going to get number of articles that you have got. Then you're going to use filter and all everything. So you have to document everything, what filter you have used, and how many results you have retrieved, what was the search strategy, how many articles you have actually screened. So everything has to be documented each step. And I would recommend you make an Excel sheet, right? Which person has done the document, I mean, and you make one person responsible for maintaining the Excel sheet, who has done the search strategy, at what date he has done, right? How many articles initially were given. Because what I mean to say is that this is very important when we are doing a long standing systematic review. And if you're, for example, a review is going for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, it might happen that when and you have done the search, literature search in the month of January, and now you're in the month of August, you're doing the analysis. It might have happened that in between this month, some more articles have been published, because it might be a hot topic and some people are publishing articles every day. So it might happen more articles, relevant articles have been published. So that's why, but you are doing analysis with the search strategy you have done in the search that you have done in January. So it might be very much so you're lagging behind, right? So many articles are being left out. So it's basically, it is not up to date. So for that to happen, you have to do continuous, I mean, that is the procedure. You do continuous literature search every month in a cyclical way, and you see whether new articles have added or not. And if they're added, you have to again add with in your existing article list if it fulfills all the requirements. And this is how it goes about cyclical. So there are again various different types of software where people actually, I mean, the computer itself runs the search strategy over and over again in a cyclical fashion after a particular time interval. But if you traditional speaking, this is not done. So anyway, you must keep the date and how many articles were included, because journal might ask, right? The reviewer might ask that, okay, when did you complete your search strategy and all, and can I have a look at the search strategy, and then you have to give them that. And then they might say, okay, your search strategy is very old, so what about new articles? Then again, lead a lot of hassle. So there might be, again, I said, some troubleshooting you might encounter, like zero and few results, very common. So to remove the some ands and add more synonyms with or, check the syntax also. Like if it is capital only, then again you go for a smaller case letter, broaden the date limits again. Too many results, greater than 10,000, not feasible. You have to make it more precise. So here's one example where I've used advanced Boolean techniques, right? And for complex questions. So that is basically nested Boolean logic. So you can see that I have used diabetes or diabetes mellitus again, along with application, see, or monitor, because monitor truncation means monitoring, okay, monitors, then etc. Pediatric or childhood, children, again that syntax, etc. For field specific searching, for example, if you this is basically done field specific when you are not sure about your research question. You just want to find a research question to work upon, and you just have a brief idea in your mind, okay, I want to do some research on diabetes. So what about diabetes, right? So you have to get to know about diabetes a little bit. So you do a title screening and see what articles are there about diabetes right now, what is the articles about mobile health, systematic review, etc. Second is database selection, which is very, very important. What database to include, what not to include, what is your, and it totally depends based on your access. Number one, second is your time, third is your resource. So that is again subject scope, geographic coverage, publication type, time period, access, etc. So here is I mean, I have made a brief comparison where we have about coverage. So you can see PubMed has a lot more coverage, like 35 million citations, Embase 36 plus, etc. lot of data. So subject focus is very important because you can see PubMed has biomedical and life sciences. So anything related to biomedicine or medicine, life sciences is in PubMed. MS is again biomedical and pharmaceutical. So if your research is focusing about drug research, or clinical trial, so MBase has to be included because it is mostly about pharmaceutical. Then Cochrane Library is basically include all systematic review. So if you're doing a systematic review of a systematic review, so you should include Cochrane Library. Again, Scopus includes, you have to include them whenever you are trying, you have something of sociology in like community medicine, right? So you must include Scopus because there are a lot of, or you are doing about psychology. So there are a lot because these are not strictly medical field. So they have to have, they are allied fields where a lot of fields like psychology is involved in psychiatry, and then in community medicine you have sociology, also anthropology is a part of community medicine. So if your research is in that area, so you must include Scopus because there are a lot many I mean it is multidisciplinary nature. Again, central nursing library, that is again you may include, but that is not very common. Psych info you have to include when you are using any kind of psychiatric research or psychological or behavioral research. Again, geographic coverage also very important. So like MBase has a strong European coverage, PubMed has a global. So basically mostly they're global. So we technically we use PubMed, Embase, and Scopus together so that to get a holistic coverage of all the different types of articles that might have been published for a particular topic. So you can see access also a very important factor, and it's also the limiting factor in literature search. You can see only PubMed is free. Like if anyone in the on earth with a computer can access PubMed, but for Embase and Cochrane and Scopus and rest of them, you need to have subscription. So if you do not have subscription, you cannot access them and you cannot get the articles. So a very, a very good idea is to get acquainted people who have access to those databases, make friends with them, and then include them in your study who have access, and they can help you out. Language coverage, you can see primarily English is PubMed, and Scopus is multilingual. So when you're using Scopus, you must be very much aware about the type of language that you're dealing with. So one of the exclusion criteria should be a language that you're not focusing upon. So mostly we're dealing with English language only. So we exclude our articles which are written in other native language like German, French, etc. Grade literature, that is again a very, very important thing because PubMed, very few, you will find conference proceedings, etc. being published in PubMed. Only very select high quality conferences publish their conference proceedings, and that too as a special edition to a journal, whatever they are. But you will see Scopus, Embase, and even non-traditional database like Google Scholar will publish conference proceedings as it is. So again, if you are going to include them, so we have to be very much cautious with your. If you want to include conference proceedings, then you have, these are the databases that you might go. So what is my recommendation? Clinical research, PubMed, you have to include drug and device studies. You have to include Embase, systematic reviews. You have to include Cochrane. And for broader searches, multidisciplinary searches, very select or very latest research, you might have to use Scopus, Web of Science are there, and etc. Third is that screening process. So continuing with that, up to now what we have done is that we have made a search strategy, right? We have got the articles and we have put them in a software where we are going to work upon it. So that software, which I'm going to discuss later, can be can be Zotero or can be Ryan. So for screening, we're going to use Ryan only, and I'm going to talk about that because it's very much systematic. What we used to do previously was that all the articles that I have got, we used to incorporate that in an Excel sheet, right? And in the Excel sheet, then we used to make columns. Like this was before Ryan, because there was Covidence also, but that is again payable. So for what we used to do, we used to make an Excel sheet, include all the articles and make sections. Like in section 1 was reviewer A, then reviewer B, then reviewer C, then finally we write the status: included, excluded, undecided, etc. And then I used to tell that you used to take this template and make a copy, and you're going to go through the article and you want to write, like for example, Y for yes, N for no, U for undecided. And each of the review are going to give me a response sheet, and from that we have to take out the comments. Like if it is yes, then we're going to make put in the final edition, it will be yes. If it is no, then final edition will be no. And after that, we're going to get a list of articles which you have passed the screening test. Then we're going to move forward. But this was again very tedious, prone to bias, and there can be cumbersome and loss of data, etc. So we use a systematic approach, that is a RIAN. And for screening, we have to keep in mind the PICOS criteria that we had previously formed. So you can see that each of the steps that we have previously formed are going to have an effect on the subsequent steps. So again, I'm going to reiterate, if you are not having, if the initial steps are not good enough, the later steps are going to be very much cumbersome for you. So again, the screening tools, that one of them is RIAN. So one of the features I want to just tell you is that it is a blind review, right? You can, each one is blind. What is blinding? Blinding means that, uh, for example, I have divided the articles among three reviewers, right? Three people are going to review the articles. And for example, there are 99 articles. So three people that they're going to go through it. So what A is thinking or what A has marked, B is not going to know, neither C. So everything is blinded, and it is blinded from me also. So in no way I can influence them, and neither they can be influenced by themselves. So it reduces the reviewer bias. Then collaboration, you can collaborate among each other, right? You can talk with each other, chat, and you can also like we are working together. I can also track the progress, right? Where I can see how much work has been done, so that I can nudge you in WhatsApp, right? Do this, do this. This deadline is approaching. Don't be lazy, right? That. And also you can write tags. For example, if a particular section is about cancer, so you can add tags about cancer. So I know that, okay, this is the articles that discuss about cancer. So if my article has something to do with cancer, I'm going to take articles from those sections. And mobile is that it also comes as an application in your phone. So if you are traveling on the go in a hospital ward, if you have some free time, you can go through that and also work from there. And it is free. That is the best advantage. So what we're going to do in RIAN, I'm going to give you a brief demonstration also. We're going to upload the responses. I'm going to invite collaborators. I'm going to set the blinding. I mean, who the person who has created the RIAN, I mean, systematic review. So that person will be the owner, and he is going to have all the control. And on the basis of his interest, he can modify the control and about the collaborators. Right? We are going to screen, resolve the conflicts, and going to export the results. Now, another thing is that after we have screened everything, we have the, I mean, articles in hand. Now we need to work further upon that. So we need to manage the articles that we have. For that, we use a citation manager. So most common is Zotero. Again, Zotero is good because it's free, browser integrated. Like you have a Google Chrome extension also, which I'm going to show, that's on a Zotero Connect. And other databases also there, like EndNote, like Mendeley, etc. But those are paid, right? And you can collaborate them. You can also give PDF also, and Zotero is available everywhere, Mac, Windows. So no fuss in that. So this is not so relevant. So we come to this end. Now we're going to start with hands-on activities. So I'm just going to copy the search strategy that I had made like previously in front of you. This is a search strategy that I'm going to make, and I'm going to uh, you know use this, how you can do a search strategy. So you basically do this search strategy in a Google Doc, right? And then you're going to copy that, and I have already started here PubMed. So if this is the PubMed window, so this is the normal search bar. So this is not of use to us, right? If you're doing advanced search, you're not going to touch this bar. What you're going to do is go to advanced, and then you're going to see that we have a query box, right? So in the query box is where you paste your search strategy. So I'm just going to paste that, and it is here. Just remove the excess like block to and remove and uh, block through. So I have just pasted my search strategy here, nothing. Go through it. So I'm having this 615 results, as you can see. I have, this is the filters that I have told you about, and I'm not going to touch that, right? There are so many different types of filters. You can choose based, you can do this when you are trying to go through articles for your own interest and but I'm not going to touch that. So now I have this list of articles. So how are you going to use this? So I'm going to save them, right? And you have to save them as CSV file, right? When you're using Scopus, you can also export as RIS file, but CSV file, because CSV file is accepted by Ryan. So you select that and you say create file. So citation download should start, and okay, we have already here. So I already have a CSV file. So I'm going to rename this because I don't want to lose this. Let's say, let's name it games only, right? Good. Now I'm going to open Ryan. So this is my window. I have already logged in. So when you first open Iron, it's going to ask you to log in or sign up. So you all do all that, right? And then you're going to get something like this. So I already have worked on some systematic reviews. So I have some articles here. But for you, it's going to be the first column. So what we're going to do is go to this window and create a new review. And I'm just going to give sample games. Okay. And then it fill all this like systematic review, choose domain as biomedical. That is, and we're going to create this review. Second step is upload the articles. For uploading the articles, see, these are the supported format like RIS format, CSV, BibTeX, PubMed XML, for Web of Science, CWI. So we have a CSV file. So I'm going to select file and I'm going to search stuff. See, so we have a file here and we're going to open and continue. Third is to actually invite the members, right? Because obviously you're not going to do a system review alone. So you must have a group. So you must have decided who's going to do the review or not. So you can just invite them, right? You can give their email ID here. I will give my email ID, right? Just to show you, and use a comma to separate. So now that is added. So it is giving red because I cannot invite myself. So it is just for demonstration purpose. So you're going to again write someone's other email person and you have to invite them. And again, user role is very important. See, you have collaborator, reviewer, viewer. So viewer is something no one wants to do because you're just going to view it and we can do not do anything about that. Reviewer is that he has only control over reviewing. Like he can screen articles, but he cannot add articles or delete articles. Collaborator can do those things also. So I'm just going to give it review and you can, after that you press invite. Right. So I'm just going to skip for now. So here we have this. This is I am the only I'm see you can see that I'm the owner. We have this much. This is just a sample, right? This is going to be a lot more. You can get 100, 200, 300 articles and you will get this. Then you will have duplicates. Because for example, some journals, most of the journals are actually indexed in various databases. So for example, a single article will be indexed in PubMed also, Embase also, Scopus also. So when you're going to search strategy for an individual of them and you're going to import that, so that article will come 3 times. One for PubMed search, one for Scopus search, one for Embase search. But you need only one. So you're going to duplicate, so you're going to delete them. So you just do detect duplicates and it's gone. And then ultimately you're going to get a final list. And what we're going to do is start screening. So this is the screening window. You can see I have given undecided, all, excluded, maybe included. We're going to go with all articles. Okay, so this will give us entire article. And again, I want to go to the filter section here, which is very important. And I'm going to go with the maximum member distance. Let me look at most 0. And because I am only 1 here, if there are 2 person, it would have come at most 1. So it is at most 0 because I am the only person here. But if there are 2 or 3 or 4 people, then accordingly there will be at most 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here I must say that you should select at most 1 here. Right, so if you press at most 1, that means that each article, right, has to be screened by a single person only once. That person cannot screen it second time or thrice time. So that will again help you in speeding up or organizing a process. So the rule of thumb is that I generally, when I work, I give 3 people the responsibility. 3 people has to go through entire article and they have to screen. So and the maximum member decision will be 1. That means each person can only decide once. So at the end of the day, when I remove, and you can see here we have the blind. So blind means that if another person comes and does a screening, he won't be knowing what the other person has thought about. So it is blinded. So, but even me, even in the blind is on, I also do not know what the other person is thinking. But if I press this blind off, then everything will be visible. And here we could see, I will give you an example. Okay, wait, of my existing review, I will give an example. For example, this. So here if we import a reference of 145, duplicates for 18, right? And these people were involved in the project. And about screening, see there are no articles led. If I give all articles here, so you can see after screening, so these people have screened individually and I have turned the blind off. Now I can see that, okay, 3 people have agreed upon the particular article. That means this has to be included. So 3 people have excluded this article. So again, this is because this is after you are seeing, this is after mutual understanding. So previously some articles had 2 people had given correct, 1 people did not agree. Again, in some articles 2 people have given cross, 1 people give tick. So it might happen. But what I then do, when I turn the blind off, I tell the 3 reviewers that you discuss among yourself and you tell me what is the best answer that is given. So they come to a consensus, right? And after consensus, you will come up with a single decision. So all these articles that have given tick are going to be included in the final full text review, and the articles which have been crossed are going to be excluded out. And then we will get our results. Then we'll come to full text screening. When again it is completed, that's why. So I give all articles here. You can see only 22 articles have been selected for full text screening. And then this one was done by this person, right? This one. And what you do in full text is that you go to the entire article, you read it. That's why we divided among a lot of people. For example, 22 that I have divided among 3 people. So like almost 7 to 8 articles per person. And that person takes maybe a week. So per day he only goes through 1 article. And that in that way, the quality is maintained. And from that, he's going to go through, keep the PICO guidelines in mind. And then he's going to find out whether this article is actually suitable or not. And then he's going to put a tick across. Right? See, he has put a cross here because this was not part of our research objectives, cross, like that. So after you have done that, and after you have done full text, you have to upload the PDF, right? So you can see you can upload the PDF also. I have already uploaded, so I will just click here. So see, so this is the article. This was a open access, so no problem here. So you can see the entire article has been given. So this person can open the app and go through the article and find out whether it's going to help him or not, or whether it comes in our research objectives. So for each of that included articles, I have given the PDF. So some articles were again closed access. I mean, they were not available to the masses. So either you have to pay the subscription fee or to get a hold of a friend who has access to that article. Maybe his institution gives him access or her access, or you can go to third-party sites like SciHub and Unpaywall, etc. So this is about screening. Now we come to the reference management, right? So reference management, I will open Zotero here. So I already have a library here. So I'll give a brief outline about Zotero, how to use. So when you open Zotero, it's going to come up like this. But for you, it's going to come up empty. For I have already done some work. So this is the library, right? So in library, you can create separate libraries for your work. For example, if it is working upon a particular known as cancer, so you can name a file as cancer, and then you're going to input the references. Now, when you're going to import the references, there are many ways. Number one is the manual method. So you just press here, and you find out the what articles. It's a journal article. You take a journal article, and you can see that there are so many fields that you have to fill. Right. So I'll just go through PubMed and I will give an example. Go through, this is PubMed. Let me the first article only. So here is the article. So if I have to go manually, um, so I have to paste the entire title here, then go for the author, last name, first name, abstract, publication. So I can only go through a certain amount, and this is very cumbersome and tedious. So what we do is that we add by something known as DOI, like digital object identifier, ISBN name, PMIDs. So if you see again in PubMed, each article has a PMID. PubMed articles will have a PMID, or other databases will have DOI or something, a unique identifier. So I'm just going to copy this PMID here, copy this, and I open Zotero, and I'll just add this here. See, everything has come here. Journal article, one week instinct, product, etc., authors, abstract. It has given a lot more information that I could have put in manually. So, this is what we are. This is better. So this is how you can go about. So this is about using the this is the best method, like, because, and also you will see that when you put this in, you're going to get a PDF also. For example, here for this article, I also have a PDF incorporated. Zotero is going to incorporate the PDF if it is open access. See, if it is a public access article, so it has Zotero has automatically included this. So I don't have to include this separately. Which one is closed access? You have to get it somewhere else. So this is one way of including. So again, you can also use a new collection, right? For example, if you are making about something about cancer and you need articles for introduction section, methodology section, result section, and then discussion section. So for each subsection, you have specific articles that you want to refer. Then you can make subsections. For example, cancer, you can make a new subsection here. You can name that, for example, introduction, right? And you have one subsection. So you can, from this entire articles, you can take some of the articles that you might find are important for writing the introduction section. You can even add tags here, right? No tags to display. You can even give, you can also give a notes. You can make tags, yeah, all fields and tags. So you can give tags also, for example, uh, based on author, right? Based on subjects, medicine, etc. You can give tags and also categorize them. So there are many ways you can actually um, uh, create or organize that. Third best is that how you're going to use as citation, right? So for that, uh, Zotero works well with my Microsoft, Office, but many people like me, a Mac user, do not have Microsoft Office. We have Pages, and sadly, it does not work with Pages, but it does work with Google Docs. So I have a sample here. I can create it here. So suppose you want citation, right? One, and you want to cite this, so you can just highlight this and go to Zotero. Now, normally you won't find Zotero here, even if you download Zotero. For that, you need to actually download the extension. So you go to Google and you search um, Zotero connector, and it will come here. So you press this and you will have installed Zotero connector for Chrome. Great. And you install. I already have installed this, so you can wait from here and you add extension and it will be added, right? And then you're good to go. And you go to sample, and then you go to Zotero, add citation, and just wait a bit. So, oh, sorry, yeah. Is hanging. I'll just restart this. Yeah, for that extension to work, you need to have Zotero opened previously. So we have this answer. Okay, citation one. We have to highlight this and Zotero add citation. Data, yeah. For example, you have typed the whatever article or author like. Okay, so you can see that from my library, I have the article. For example, this article I want to cite. So I'm just going to press that, and it's going to come here. See, so I just name is one. Okay, now you want to add references. So references. So I'm just going to again go to Zotero, add or edit bibliography. And then it updated. See, so whatever citation I've given, I make a separate section references, and it is already going to give me in the style. And now again, I can change the type of style that I want to do. Maybe it is APS style, Vancouver style, whatever I want, depending upon general requirements, I can do that. So if I do another citation, for example, citation 2, I want to cite it here, Zotato, citation, different article, say this article here. So press it. See, it has again updated my reference section. So my one is that it is based on recent one. You can change that in the settings also, or you can just cut here, cut and paste. So in this way you can work and you can go about with your. So whenever you are citing, it will automatically update your reference section. One more thing is that even if you're not using Zotero, you can also go it directly from Google also, because Google also has a citation menu. So again, you can, if you are not familiar with Zotero, you can also use from Zotero APA, add citation source, like you can use journal article, online database, everything. So even you can do it by um, Google Docs manually also, but Zotero is better because you are much more systemized. So this is how Zotero works. Now, finally, this is about how you maintain a citation manager. About Zotero, you can easily download Zotero in the internet. You just type Zotero, and you're just going to go download for whatever system you're doing. Just have a look about system recommendation, etc. Third, what we are going to do is Prisma chart making. So just try Prisma Generator Official, right? You can, there are many ways to do it by coding and all, but I don't know, I'm not confident in that, so not take so much pressure on that. Go to this application, right? And either you can go by CSV file or just right here create flow diagram, and you can get it as whatever PDF, right? Download as PDF, PNG, SVG, whatever way is interactive, HTML, etc. So you can see again, I have told you there are 4 blocks or subsections that you fill: identification, screening, and included finally. So identification, the databases. So you can just type here based on databases. So we do generally 3 databases: PubMed, Scopus, and Base. We give 3 here. Registers are basically unofficial databases, so we will keep it 0. Website 0, organization 0. Total citations, for example, 500. So you see it is getting updated here. Duplicates, for example, I'm giving 120. Automatically excluded. Other exclusions automatically means in the Ryan, when I place deduplicate, so that is automatically excluded. And then after screening, I find okay, this has to be excluded, then that is other exclusions. So this is a very detailed Prisma according to your I mean benefit or your you can modify the Prisma chart, but there has to be certain like these blocks has to be present. Identification, screening, and included, you cannot change that. So maybe you can forget about the boxes in the right side, because these are highly detailed. I mean, this is the original or gold standard Prisma chart, but you can make a roundabout that and make it easier, because you might see in lower journals like Curious, etc. They give a very simple Prisma chart, or even narrative reviews also, they might just give a offhanded Prisma chart, right? So but you have to fill these blocks: screening, record screened. So 500 minus 120, that will come about, I'm not in more big mass, let me say 100, so 400, right? Out of that you exclude 200. So report sort or not sort. Reports are mean unofficial, unpublished data. So these are all you can keep at 0 or not. Total included you can give 200 then, right? New reports. And this is how you make a Prisma. Then you can download it as a PDF, PNG, SVG, whatever works well. Keep it saved and put it in your manuscript. So this is how you make a Prisma chart. Very useful application, right? So that brings us to the closure of our module of literature search. So I hope you had a wonderful session here. I tried my best to make it simple and uh, engaging for you. I try to show you how you can do it in Ryan and whatever. This is how I do, right? There are many workarounds. Many people try to reduce the time and they do full text screening and data extraction together, because they said, okay, uh, I have included articles of full text review, so I must include them in my study only. So why not go over data extraction first along with that? So there are many ways to do it, but this is the traditional and the most best method to do. Even I have given it as per the Prisma guidelines. You can go through that, and Prisma guidelines is very detailed. And I will encourage you that whenever you do a systematic review on your own, you go through that guideline and manually check the boxes, because in that way your protocol is going to be much more stronger, the foundation is going to be very much stronger, and then you're going to have a very good systematic review, having high chances of I mean acceptance. And then after literature search we come and data screening and data extraction and all, we are ready with our data, what we have at hand, and then we will decide about data analysis. That I think Dr. Vinay Suresh will take in subsequent scenario and subsequent sessions. And then you're going to finally write the report, right? And then you're going to go about publishing. Publishing is again a whole different game. You have to have correspondence with the journal, and then there's a lot of hassle. So this is how you go about a systematic review, and I hope this has been a very helpful session for you. Because just I want to tell you finally that please practice literature search, because screening is very easy, but making a literature search is difficult. And traditionally it was done by librarians, right? In US also, in the big colleges, they have a separate librarian, right? Librarian, you tell the librarian, I am doing a research on this, please formulate a search strategy for me, and the librarian will give you a search strategy, and then you are going about that. But in our setting, we are going to do it on our own. That's why, and in most of the settings also, that's why we need to have a good standardized practice, and that's why you need to get your search strategy approved and registered by Prospero, which I have talked about earlier. So with that, I will have to close the session. And if you have any questions, you can ask me right now.
Thank you so much, sir. Uh, uh, Anyone has any queries or questions, put that in the chat box. We'll read it out. So till then, questions from our team, like one or two questions there are only. How do you guide students in deciding whether to include or exclude borderline articles during screening?
So that's a very good question about including borderline articles. So again, as I said, that one of the strategies is that, because it's a very subjective thing, right? Which article is included and which article is not to be included, and it depends upon my own perception about the article. I might think, okay, this is a very important article, it talks about a lot of stuff. But again, that's why we need to have lot many reviewers. Technically, even if you see in Cochrane handbook, they have given 2 reviewers at least. That's why I keep 3 or 4 reviewers even. You might have seen in the, when I shared my screen for that periphyseal intervention, I have given 4 to 5 reviewers, and then some of them did the work. So in this way, when you're having multiple reviewers, you are reducing the bias chance also, and also having meaningful discussion consensus between them. So in this way, you include articles. Also, second is that it also depends upon your search strategy, because, for example, I'm talking about the in the starting of my talk about inguinal hernia repair with open and laparoscopy and robotic, and then we got about 400 articles, for example. I don't remember the current number. And then after a bit more search, our PI gave us a similar article which has included search strategy more than 200 more articles. So basically our was debunked, right? So with previous research or previous systematic review, you can have a good idea that, okay, this many articles they have got with the search strategy. That means if I want to publish something new, I must include at least these articles as well as more, if not more. Otherwise, they would not publish it, right? Because if you have someone has published about diabetes and physical activity with 200 articles as initial search, and you only publish with 100 articles, that means your search was not wide enough. That's why it has to be debunked. And the earlier you understand the search strategy is better, not good enough, the better for you, because the more you progress, the more time you're wasting, right? Or more efforts are being wasted. For that, search strategy is very important. And that's why we need to have lot many people always working and communicating with themselves about including the articles or not. Otherwise, there will be a lot of biasing involved.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, Abdul Rahman is asking, what should be the approach when I'm intending to do a systematic review in the domain of medicine, given I have no access to subscription-based databases?
Yeah, that is a very good and a very practical question that you've asked, because that is also the problem for me also. Even I do not have access to any other database except PubMed. So we are on the same boat here. What I do is that I literally beg my friends that please give me access, right? And you can make them also an opportunity, extend a hand of friendship, that okay, I'm also going to include you in my project, so you give me access to your articles, because your institution is very rich, my one is very poor. So in this way you have to go about. Best method is to reach out to people through LinkedIn, okay, or Facebook, Instagram, social media, Twitter, and connect with like-minded individuals, and among them some will have access to this this databases. Specifically, people who are studying in AIMS, they have access. I know AIMS Delhi or Bhubaneswar, anywhere. If you connect with them through LinkedIn and you talk to them, they will be interested because they are also getting an authorship opportunity, right? Publication opportunity, who are preparing for or want to publish research. People in studying in Saudi Arabia or Middle Eastern countries also, they have a lot of access. Also, people in US, they have access, right? So you have to connect with those people, otherwise it's very difficult to get access for your because my institution doesn't give me, even I do not have access. So this is how I go about, right?
Okay, thank you, sir. So Mayank is asking how many minimum people are required to conduct a systematic review and meta-analysis?
So theoretically a single person can conduct systematic review, but it won't be amounting to much because it's a huge amount of work, because a single person come does the literature search, manuscript writing is huge work. Minimum two people, because and maximum can be any part. If you go to PubMed, you will see people with about 10, 12, 14, 40 people have done a systematic review. Then and you can, so a good group, about 8 people should do the work. Some people will do the literature search, some will do analysis, and you need to have people from all backgrounds and all expertise level. People who have lower expertise will go about literature search, screening. Like screening is basically grub work, right? You do not have to use much brain, but you have to just go and screen. And analysis is where you the real game comes into play. Like it can actually make and break your research, like whether whatever data you have collected, whether it's actually going to come to use and you synthesize new idea, new results, it will actually help you in publication or not. Literature search is basically going to help you in forming the research question and basis of your work, right? So it's the foundation. If the foundation is wrong, then the entire thing will stumble upon. So for that, so you should connect with at least 4 to 5 people. 8 people is a good group to go about.
So the next question is from Karthik. How to assign different articles to different people in Ryan? In that case, only one person will review that particular article.
Yeah, you just invite them, right? I showed you in the when I was doing it. So you just invite them by their email ID, and then they will get a link in their email that please that, for example, Karthik, you are inviting you to join the systematic review, and they're going to click the link and they're going to get access to that. And when they're getting access, right, they're going to have access to all the articles there that you have, that the person who has actually made the systematic review have given. And then then when you, if you set the filter as at most one, as I told you, then he can only select the articles once only, right? And then technically speaking, everyone who is going to review the article should review all the articles. Like you should not divide it. And even if for dividing, then you have to give more people, because the ultimate objective is that you are going to include the articles without any subjective bias. So each article should at least be reviewed by 3 people. Like in the first question, I had someone asked me about that how many people should review. At least 3 people should review it. 2 people is minimum to reduce this biasness. For that, everyone should actually, who is reviewing, should go through the entire list of articles.
Yes, sir. Next question is from Ram. How to decide on a good research question? In the past, I have started multiple reviews, but I had to abort because in the process, I realized they are not feasible for meta-analysis. Could you please shed some light on that?
Yeah, that's also a good question. It was also the problem with me also, because the problem arises because we do not have a good idea about the existing literature. Like I am a very lazy person and I do not do regular search of literature, right? So number one, if you're starting out, you should look around person who are much more experienced than you, right? Who are in the field, for example, PI professors or teachers. In Indian setting is very difficult because they themselves do not have an idea. So you should connect with people through, again, LinkedIn or other social media platform with people who are, you know, have a good idea about that. For example, in the mentorship program about games only, so there are a lot many mentors who are really doing very good work in their field of expertise. Dr. Oshin Purisa is there, other people are also there, and even I myself was also a mentor. So you can get into that also. So they are going to decide a feasible research question, and then they are going to, I mean, may prepare it for you whether it's actually feasible or not. And second option is that you yourself do a literature search and you find out whether it is conflicting in nature or not. And third is that when you form a research question and go for prospector registration, they're going to flag that whether your article is similar to this previously published systematic reviews or not. So in this way also you can going to get a good idea whether my article is feasible or not, right? So this is how it actually works. The ultimately you have to have a good idea about your domain on what you're working. For example, if you're looking for inguinal hernia, right? So you need to know about what actually has been published about inguinal hernia and what is not. That was the problem for me when I did it, because I did not have idea that it was already published. That's why I was going about it, and then later on when my PI told me that okay, this is actually published, so you're wasting your time. So PI has more knowledge about that. So it's basically when you're forming research question, formation is basically done by a senior person and who has a lot more experience. So, but if you're going to go about it, you have to first do an in-depth literature search using the methods I told you. Right? Literature search, you form the search string and all, go to databases, etc.
Um, so next question is from Fatima. Can you please explain the proximity operator once more?
So proximity operator that I have told you about is basically like you have near 3, near 2. Like you type near, like for example, diabetes, then you say near oblique 2 or 3. Then you have adjunction. Adjunction is basically, for example, if you write physical activity, adjunction, intervention. That means physical activity has been used as an intervention in all the articles. So it may not be with diabetes only, it can be with other, for example, smoking, tuberculosis, etc. But physical activity was a part of intervention, right? That is the use of adjunction operator. Then you have is the near oblique 3, oblique 2. That means that you are restricting the domain, it's going to spread itself. For diabetes mellitus, near oblique 3 means is going to go through 3 stages of diabetes. It can be diabetes mellitus, diabetes type 1, type 2, or it can be NIDM, and it's going to stop itself, right? So you're basically controlling how much you are spreading it. It is unlike truncation, where in truncation you are going to go through different, I mean, possible synonyms like child. Truncation means child, childhood, children, etc. So it is like that.
Thank you, sir. So next question is from Dr. Prakhar. In terms of filters, PubMed follows them diligently, but Google Scholar is a bit more casual about it and includes non-relevant articles too. Any suggestions on how to narrow the search on Google Scholar apart from using appropriate Boolean operators?
Right. So number one is that Google Scholar is not a traditional database of research. And if you go through any of the uh, systematic review that is published in a good journal or any journal, you will not see Google Scholar as a database that you have gone through, because Google Scholar gets articles from everywhere. Like there are journal articles, websites, PDFs, videographs also, except everything is there in Google Scholar. So nobody uses Google Scholar like that. And in Google Scholar, there is no way you can make a search string. So you never do a search in Google Scholar using a search string. What I use Google Scholar for is basically going through a particular topic. Like you can search about diabetes mellitus, or you can go through any author's work. For example, you want to find about a particular, interested about a particular field, and you want to find about the author. So you just write the field like neurosurgery, then the author's name, and then you're going to get a list of articles that he has published in as a neurosurgeon, like that. So you, for search string purposes, you not use Google Scholar, right? I do not recommend it because it's not standardized, and there is basically no way you can do a search strategy in Google Scholar.
Okay, so the next question is from Mohammad Amir. Can we repeat the topic of SR of an already published article?
Yeah, you can do that. So basically there's something known as updated systematic review. So what we are doing was in the English Harney was an updated systematic review. But when you're doing an updated systematic review, you have to be very cautious about the articles that you're including, because you should include more articles, right? Because if something is updated means that thing has become outdated. That's why you're updating it. So when you're updating it, it should include more articles, more work should have been done on that. So and second is that you should not build upon the existing results. You should give something of your own, right? So there are many ways you can do that. For example, for England 100 example only, you could compare. If I tell you that which one is superior, you can compare only infection rates, right? SSRIs, or you can compare surgical site infections. You can compare about hospital stays, or you can compare about learning curve, or you can compare about uh, in and out time. So there are many ways you can compare. So you can also so if you are adding more parameters to it, or if you're comparing it uh, in in different aspects also, if for example, if you're doing a meta-analysis, if you're doing a pool of means, right, or you are doing a heterogeneous analysis also, so there are many ways you can work upon that, which will be taken up better. You will understand better when for subsequent sections are covered in this session. So like that, I mean, bottom line is that if you are working upon existing literature or existing systematic review, it's number one, it should not be same. Second, it should be updated, right? More knowledge or more information should be given. And third, the result should be built upon, right? The result should not be same, right? So that is the message.
So next question is, what are the feasibility guidelines or pointers if one decides to conduct an updated meta-analysis on a research question? I guess you answered that already.
Yeah, it's similar to that only. Right? There's no bad things as such.
Yes, sir. So the next question is, if a similar review article exists, should I go after similar review again? So I think this is also done.
Similar question. Again, if you're doing an updated system review, I don't recommend that. Look for something else, but you need to add much more information to that, which will become trickier. And many journals would not try to accept that only. You will face rejections because there are many systematic reviews, because it's very easily done. There are many systematic reviews being published, and nowadays they're saying that systematic reviews is gaining less importance in the evidence hierarchy. Uh, Now meta-analysis is basically at the top. So all the guidelines that you see in your textbooks, everything, it comes from meta-analysis only.
Yes, sir. Now the last question from Sheikh Mohammed. Sir, could you please tell me the difference of keywords that we use in mesh term and then the Boolean operator? Somehow it kind of sounds same superficially.
Yeah, so I talked about a concept known as controlled vocabulary. So in controlled vocabulary, what you do is that in order to standardize the results that you get from typing a particular word, PubMed and other databases came up with something known as these terms: mesh terms, medical subject heading, or empty terms, right? So when you type that words, you're going to get a set of results, right? And that is going to be same for all, any person, even and that is standardized, right? Because when we type something, there can be differences in case, like it can be capital letters, small letters, spelling mistakes, etc., etc. So to prevent that and standardize that, we have something known as mesh term. An operator is basically you're doing operations, right? You're doing some kind of mathematical operation. So in, like I explained with set theory, so Boolean operation is basically you have three operators, and, or, and not. So when you have set A and set B and you're giving and, that means you're going for the intersection of that. So you use like a set. In a set, the elements of the mesh term and the operations of the Boolean operators. So for example, diabetes is one set, right? And in that set, I mean the population is one set, and in that population, diabetes mellitus is one mesh term, and another set is intervention. And intervention, we have mobile health application, that is one more element, and intersection of that, right, that is the operator, Boolean operator, that is and. So that is a theoretical way you could understand. So basically search strategy is that based on a PICO guideline, you are making 3 blocks of population, intervention, and outcome. If you have a comparator group, then you have to add a comparator group also. In case of my research question, I had not have any comparator group, right? But if you want to compare about, for example, inguinal hernia with open inguinal hernia, I mean, robotic inguinal hernia repair with open inguinal hernia. So your comparator will be an open inguinal hernia repair. So you have to again include one more block with comparator set, right? So in this way, you have to segregate your blocks and combine them together with AND operator, and you get the final search strategy. I hope it's clear now.
Yes, sir. So Mayank has asked, and this will be the last. We won't be taking up any questions now. Can SRMA be done on determining the prevalence of a disease?
See, systematic review, you're getting the basis of systematic review. Like, so when you are determining the prevalence of a disease, you are going for a, I mean a, I mean a care, I mean a, this study, what is called that cross-section study. So again, that is a different study group altogether. It's a original research article. Like, if you are then community medicine, right? In community medicine, we have different types of articles, and one of the under one section we had was natural, and then we had this case control, then we had cross sectional. So it comes under that. So in prevalence means what? That is the existing disease burden, right? So if someone, for example, in a village, and you have people suffering from hypothyroidism or iron deficiency, and you want to find out how many people are actually suffering from that, so you do a study on that, right? And you do a survey maybe, or you do a screening test, and you find out, okay, this many people are hypothyroid among total villagers, and you get a number. That is the prevalence, right? But SRMA, or systematic review and meta-analysis, is basically a compilation of existing literature. It can be RCTs, it can be case studies, it can be animal studies. So it's basically one step up, right? So basically, you can say that case control studies, cohort studies, and cross-sectional studies help in making an SRMA, but SRMA does not give you a prevalence of a disease. It gives evidence in favor of something. For example, when you determine the prevalence of hypothyroidism through a cross-sectional study, and then you say, okay, this is the prevalence. For example, X is the prevalence, and then you say, okay, I'm going to give treatment for this. For example, levothyroxine, right? So what is the evidence suggesting that levothyroxine is actually going to decrease hypothyroidism in this particular person? So what is the evidence of that? That evidence comes from the systematic reviews and meta-analysis. So these are very different study groups altogether. So to answer that, simply no, you cannot determine the prevalence of disease.
Okay, sir, that will be all. Thank you so much, sir, for incredibly insightful and practical session today. Your deep understanding of literature, search strategies, and hands-on guidance with Ryan give us valuable tools. Yeah, and the clarity with which you broke down complex processes made it easy to follow, especially for beginners like us. On behalf of Rasok and the entire SRMAX team, we are truly grateful for your time, your mentorship, and your commitment to nurturing the next generation of researchers. Your passion for like AI and medical science is inspiring, and we look forward to learning even more from your work in the future. Thank you once again for being with us today, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to Rasok and Games for giving me this platform to share my knowledge so that we can all go together. I'm really impressed, and I am honored to be part of this webinar and session where you are actually helping budding researchers to grow their existing knowledge and helping science in general. So thank and research in general. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks, sir. You can leave now.
Thank you so much. Bye everyone.